From Oak Point, Texas, the Tokyo Tex, the Kamikaze Cowboy, the Sukiyaki Jockey, the Man of Trail, Tim Kamara.
Go Lakers!
And from San Antonio, Texas, the man on a mission and a mission on his mind, the man behind the wheel,
Let's
and
go.
keeping it real, the man that asked, how would you do it? Brad Jewett. All right, everybody. Here we go. I'm watching my Spurs highlight.
Oh, my God.
2026 NBA champions coming up.
Hey, we won the other night.
You did win the other night. But they didn't have Kevin Durant. You didn't have Luka.
I know. I'm just saying. I didn't see the game. I just looked at the score.
Come on. You've got the banner behind you, dude.
I know. I brought it out just in case.
Is that your last championship in 01 right there?
I think so. In the bubble. Last one was in the bubble.
That's how little a fan you are. You don't even know when your last championship was.
In the bubble. Yeah, so many to count. Okay, come on. Let's go.
Rub that in. Why would you? Well, why don't you? Hey, everybody. Welcome to Keeping It Real. We got an awesome show for you. Thank you for tuning in. It's a show that I've been wanting to do. I don't know. I think, since we've had, a long time, when we started saying we wanted to have a bunch of other events other than just the trail and the horsemanship and all those things that Tim and I do every day of the week. We're going to have Mr. Corey Cushing on. And I think I'm thinking it's going to be a 2-episode series here. So thank you for watching, and we're going to get to him shortly as soon as we just do a little bit of touching up, because Timmy is going to be out of the country for a month and then come back for 2 days, then go out of the country again for another month and come back for a day, I think, or something like that. Is that right, Timmy?
They like me in Europe.
The Asian man is popular in Europe.
Yeah. I'm just not going by Israel yet. Till later.
Well, we're happy to have you here, dude, and here for a couple more days. So we're going to use you up, and I think without further ado, I know we got a lot to talk about, so let's bring in Mr. Corey Cushing. Welcome in, Corey.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Excellent.
Doing good, man. Thanks for joining us, man.
You betcha.
I know we talked about it. I ran into you at the World Show, 2 years ago or something. Hey, man, would you come on? You're like, yeah. And then he's like, crickets. And then I finally call him. He's like, well, I got to talk with the boss. And so we've been back and forth. Long story short, we are here, and we're finally making it happen. And, man, thanks again for joining us. And, as you all know, for part of our show, Timmy makes a big list of notes so that we kind of have some guidelines, and then we just kind of weave and go wherever we want. So this is kind of the portion of the show where I let Tim take it away.
Well, Corey,
and just for clarification, not to cut you off, Tim, but the reason I had to check with the boss, because I don't know how to do all this high-tech stuff. I just need to be on the horses. So that's why I had to talk to the boss. But so anyway, we're good to go now.
Is that the only reason?
No, there's lots of other reasons.
That's the main reason. That's the main reason.
That's right. Yeah.
So, of course, my first question is about your wife. I would like to know how you met her and how long you've been married. We'll start there. And then one of your kids.
So I met Kristen. I'll never forget it. Bakersfield, California, at the April show back in the day. I had just I was working for John Slack at the time, and I was there helping Harrison Tobin, Blake Johns, and Haley Harris at the time in the youth reining. And John had sent me out there to help them get qualified because they're at the end of April. That's when qualifying ends. So we're trying to gather up last points. And anyway, I was out there early one morning, and here comes this sorrel horse loping around with this gorgeous, blonde on his back. Anyway, I worked my magic and started talking to her. Took her. Our first date was at IHOP there in Bakersfield. So really knocked it out of the park. And anyway, she's thank God she's held on to me ever since.
Hey, if she stays with you after an IHOP dinner, dude.
Hey, okay. So real quick, I paid Tina at 208 too, and I took her to Applebee's.
No,
then Hooters, and then Hooters was our second date.
Yeah, and that was in Conyers, Georgia. She'll go Georgia to those places. Got some winners.
Okay, tell me about your kids. How old are your kids? How many kids?
I got 3 incredible kids. Caleb is our oldest, and he'll be 14 here in just a couple months, or excuse me, 15 here in a couple months. And then Lincoln just turned 12. Or golly, Bill, ugh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Lincoln just turned 13, so we got Caleb is 14, Lincoln is 13, and then Capri is 9.
Wow, you got quite the team going on
there. Yeah.
So quickly, how do you balance helping I'm sure your kids are involved with activities. How do you balance out with your horse training?
Man, Chris and I have had a lot of talks about this, and especially here lately. Caleb is the biggest to, want to be out there with me, whether it's, cow horse riding, starting his 2-year-old roping has been a big thing on his mind here lately. And there's so much to do, but there's also, we've had to have quite a few talks with him because his buddies, do homeschool and other people that works for them. But what we talked to him about is, man, you're always going to have the horses. They're always going to be here. You got the rest of your life if this is what you choose to be. But your basketball team that you've had so much success with, and we watch you growing so much in the last few years, the track and field that you play, Lincoln with the soccer, and all the other activities, you need to live that right now. And, because there'd be a lot of memories that, you won't ever be able to, get back or make just because of the age that you are and this time in your life. And so anyway, it's a strong juggle for sure. I mean, Caleb's wanting to come and ride, but at the same time, we're not going to let his team down because he committed to going and playing. And it's and also it's good for me to kind of step away from the barn and like over the weekend. I mean, we had soccer games and basketball games, and that Lincoln and Caleb both play on the same team, with this rec team, and man, it was just fun to watch. I haven't been to one of their games in probably the last month or so, but we've paid a little bit extra to get them some coaching and lots of practices here and there, and it was fun to go there and watch how each one of them have really grown and excelled.
Wow. So I had my question. I lost it. I was so intrigued.
Right, I got rambling on there for a minute
about the basketball. Oh, I know. Here it goes. Did any of your children ever bring you for Father's Day, like to bring you to school to say what my dad does?
Yeah, we've had bring your parents to school day before, and I've gone in there and walked in with my spurs and my cowboy hat, and what do you do for a living? Well, you can just call me a cowboy, and train horses and this and that. So yeah, we have had days like that.
Now, is that when you're in Weatherford, or is that because you've been in Arizona? I don't know how old you were or your kids were when you moved. You made the move.
So we've been here now exactly for 4 years. Come out here to Weatherford, Texas, and I think I've been down and done that with Capri's class. We've taken the horses to school, show and tell. The horses have gone to school. The kids, completely different from Arizona and Garner, Texas is. 1 year for Halloween, Caleb went as the headless horseman. Okay. Well, we've got this old black Gildan that Kristen and I used to show, and pulled him out of the pasture. And, there's the drop off line. We unloaded him around the corner, and he rode in there on his horse. And then, Capri, was a cowgirl and, did that whole deal. The horses in the drive up line or drop off lane. And so, anyway, that's never would that happen there in Arizona, but
that was that. Now you figured out where my question was going, because I'm like, Weatherford, Texas, it's probably okay, I get it, but like in Arizona, they maybe not.
Yeah, you might get a police escort, to get you out of there, and make sure you don't forget your shovel.
Okay, so I'm going to bounce off that and ask you about your mom and how she showed and how she helped you when you were younger.
Yeah, so my mom grew up mostly riding Appaloosas when she was young. She did a lot of the queening stuff.
This was in Utah.
This is in Utah, yeah. Sandy, Utah is where I grew up, and My grandpa, Theron Jolly, he was had a big love for horses, and like I said, grew up doing the 4-H stuff, and then riding with Noel Skinner. From one of my very first rides was with Noel, and he was like my second dad. And so anyway, but going back to my mom, it was a passion of hers, for her whole life, and still is today. And so I don't know, that's kind of just where the trail took me, so to speak.
So let me go back to Noel Skinner for a second. So would you say he taught you when you were very young with your mom, I guess? And then do you think he was the type that really read horses back in the day? Because I know all my horseman guys, the older ones back in the 80s and the 70s, they were very horse whispering type guys. Like they really knew how to communicate with horses in a different level than we do today, I think.
100%. Yes, sir. 100%, Tim. And Noel was a horseman in all areas, back then. And I'll just speak for as long as I've been alive, but in the 80s and early 90s, guys, the special events weren't as specialized as what they are today. You started first thing in the morning with the halter. You worked your way into the pleasure. You might do some reining that afternoon, a cow horse if you got a good one, and then you might need to end the day barrel racing. It wasn't, this is just your halter horse. This is just your, the horses had better areas, but they showed in all the classes.
Right, for sure. So then tell me about young Corey here, when like maybe 14, 15, 16. When did you go work for John and Todd?
So I officially went to work for them when I got done with high school in 98. I took my senior trip, which was maybe 3 days worth, just going and camping with some buddies. And Garrett Cooper actually came up, and we went on our.
What a great representative, Garrett Cooper.
That's my brother. We had a lot of great times. But anyway,
okay.
Arizona, and off. I think I was there for maybe 2 or 3 days, and then I went to the Derby with John and Todd. That was my first outing with them. As far as working for them.
I love it. So, can you help me with that? Maybe can you tell me like what you got from Todd and John a little bit, like when you were young, like that, when at the beginning, not like now, but like in the beginning, what did they teach you at the beginning?
Oh, how much time do we have?
Oh, I know. I'm sorry.
I'll break it down like this. John was, you talked about horsemen and guys that can whisper to horses and just can bring out the best in the horse. John was a magician that way. He was so good at becoming one with his horse and making it to where, that horse might be having a bad day, but John could just sit up there and still make that horse do good things, and you would walk away thinking that there wasn't a problem, and he wouldn't like it. That's where John taught me so much as far as like how to work around, there's just not one way to skin a cat, let's go in different areas and different, maybe a different approach. He was very good that way. Todd was very, direct as far as this is the way we go about it. This is what we do. And I feel like that is where I really learned how to look at both sides of training horses as far as, you need to stick to the program and, this is what we're doing every day to, don't be afraid to venture outside the box and, go about it, from a different angle or at a different time. And
then in that, like, did you get help from like Bobby Avila, or how about Brett Stone? Because you talked about.
Well, yeah, when I first went down and started riding with those guys, so I would think I was 13, 14. And that's when John was still working for Brett Stone there at the Stone Ranch, right off of the old Peakview Road right there, And I got to ride with Brett. I mean, that was back in the Boomernick days. And when John still had that good Arab stud Muscateel, that's when I first started going and riding with them.
That's when I first met you.
I think so. Yeah.
That's when I first saw you, because you were real young.
Yes, sir. Yeah, 14, 15 years old. Yeah.
Mr. Brett was
like, the long weekends or, spring breaks, and up there in Utah, we did year-round school, so you would go for 9 weeks, get 3 weeks off. Well, those 3 weeks I'd go to Arizona, or a long weekend, the summers, spent a lot of summers there, just trying to absorb as much as I could.
Then also, like, did you get help from Don Murphy, Ted Robinson, those guys?
Oh, yeah. Don, Benny was a huge
Benny, yeah, for sure.
And Bobby, I mean, the list goes on and on. Some of my, best times were, going to those, say smaller AQHA shows, and whether it be, I guess I should say, whether it be the Sun Circuit or, Susanville, California, we'd sit around at the end of the day and I just listened to how those guys would train horses or what was going on, or, just sit there like a sponge, some of it, it made for a good laugh. We all shake our heads now and wonder why that, excuse me, that thought even came to mind. But, it was interesting, and as I've gotten older and venture with new things or think back to those days and how those guys and how raw it was back in the day, and just sometimes that stuff comes back and helps you for sure. So I'm glad I was able to be there.
For sure.
My last question on that topic is, don't you think those guys, I don't know because I haven't seen it lately, like using the hackamore? I thought those guys were masters at the hackamore. Benny and Tony Amaral was in that thing. All those guys, they had such a feel for that hackamore when they come out of the snaffle. I thought they were like masters at it, and it was just fun to watch the process.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yes, sir. So that's something that I've been working real hard about. Because there's putting the hackamore on and the horse wearing it, and you being able to do a pattern, okay, with this piece of equipment hanging on this horse's head, because at the end of the day, it is just a rawhide halter and everything that we got to do. And so to keep the respect in that horse's nose and, the operation of his, function of the maneuver or whatever, and whether you need to be there to help him or not, but just the feel, it's so important that something that I don't feel that I've mastered yet by no means. And, but I still value it when you can see a horse that knows how to pack the hackamore like those guys could back in the day. Benny's horse, I'd let him have a couple of my horses, and I'd go up there and get my lesson, and I'd go to get on, and I'd just go to lift my hand up and thought I was going to tip the thing over backwards. So soft, and that's just how incredible and how respectful he could get them to the hackamores. And yeah, you can see, the good moments from the bad moments, but what really, separated it is that his horses never looked scared, unless they needed to be, if that makes sense, but his end result and how that horse felt in that hackamore is, I don't know if I'll ever be able to have that, but it's always something that I got in the back of my mind that I want my horses to feel like.
I think it's beautiful, actually. When you watch them do that, I mean, to watch them use that equipment, right, and the way they can use it, they were just masters of their game back in the day.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. Yeah. No, they were, and still are today. I mean, times have changed, but those guys. All of those guys are smart enough to understand the change, and that's why they were so successful for so long. There's some things that stuck, as far as how it used to be and the way it should be, but they were smart enough to be like, I've got to do things different, or I just have got to keep it this simple, depending on the horse, the moment, and whatever situation you're prepping for.
How do trainers of those days, the 80s, the 70s, how do they last so long?
Golly, Bill, I don't know.
Like the way they took care of their bodies, it was a lot. It was like and they had harder stock to ride. I thought they rode rough stock, and so physical in their arms and their hips and their shoulders and their legs, and they do it till they die.
Yeah. When you've got that love and that passion for it, I guess the pain has no tolerance there. As far as being able to put up with it and move forward every day, because I watch some of them, you know, even today, and guys that are my age and how they come walking into the barn or at the end of the day, and you just wonder, you know, it's gotta be for the love of the sport is why they keep on doing it, you know, and maybe it is just for a living, but anyway, knock on wood, I feel pretty good. You know, it's maybe some stiff muscles here or there, but yeah, I feel good right now. So hopefully that doesn't change for a while.
So how about this? Where does your passion and desire and your work ethic come from? What motivates you?
Oh, I guess what motivates me is because I love this so much. You know, I mean, there's days where, you know, to me, even though, you know, I have to do it, but I don't feel like I'm at work. I enjoy spending time, whether it be on the 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, the older horses, you know, making a good horse better. I really, really enjoy that. And sometimes it's the wins in the arena that, you know, may be fulfilling enough. Hopefully we can make it happen, you know, when we step into the show pen. But, you know, I truly love my job. I love these animals. And, you know, I mean, it's really all I think about. I can leave for a few days, but I promise you it's on my mind 99% of the time.
And so when you get back from a horse show, like you came back a week ago, how do you go from a horse show mode into going back to your 3-year-old mode?
Well, we took some 3-year-olds with us on the road, and just knowing what's to come, you know, how they need to keep progressing, how they need to keep building. You know, the ones that were there, it was definitely productive for them. You know, was everything perfect the whole time? No. But I feel like you've got to go through that a little bit. You've got to, you know, they're going to, I remember my first time in Las Vegas, I wasn't exactly in tune, you know, with doing with what I exactly needed to do. But point I'm getting at is that when I come home, I try to fill out where they're at, where their mindset is, getting a hold of their mind to where I can go and start working on something. I mean, I could jump on them and, you know, run some circles and do a pattern and do this and that. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like I'm accomplishing anything. So getting their mind and their mental, you know, thoughts back up underneath me, you know, because they're in shape. You know, I've got help that stay here, and, you know, whether it be working them on cattle or, you know, they might just, some of these guys, you know, just kind of get a break while I'm gone, maybe just stay exercised and in shape, and gives them time to recoup and refresh. And some of them are excited to have me come back, and some of them aren't very excited.
How about simulating? This is what I'm thinking here is, how do you simulate this people, Will Rogers, Waterina, all these people around you on this 3-year-old? How do you get them to still lock in what you're saying? Banners, fence, a little bit more energy than you used to, and they got that stuff going through their ears and stuff. Like, how do you get them ready for that day or those days of that?
Well, hopefully by the time that you've decided that you're going to take this horse to town, they're really good at taking a joke. But being able,
that's a good way to look at it.
Being able to do their job, you know, in a fashion, and that's only something that I think with, you know, taking them down the road. And, you know, this year it started off clear back in February. I took 3 of them out to the Sun Circuit. I had 2 of them go to the Stallion Stakes. We got some other shows coming up, like making sure I go and take them and, you know, able to work them there on the road, and, you know, so they get to see this stuff and be exposed to it. And, you know, it's no different than, you know, like the pleasure horses and stuff like that. You got to let them get used to it, and you got to, you know, they've got to see things and understand and try to get inside their head, and to where, and they'll tell you real quick, you know, if you're not feeling a difference in them, or to where they're starting to, you know, get into the ball game, you know, by day 2 or 3. And some of them may need a little bit more time, because here's the other thing too, is that we train them to look at things. We but we bred them to react, you know, to movement, to look at things, to be more noticeable, to pick up on stuff. And so, you know, there's days where you've got to leave it alone, and there's other days where you've got to make them say lope past it or lope around it. And so, you know, the Sun Circuit's a prime place to, you know, let them see all of that good time on, you know, what can really happen in the horse world. So it's just a lot of exposure, just a lot of taking them as much as you can, but being able to spend good quality time on them while you're there.
You know, one thing, Tim, that I see at the Sun Circuit especially, and another reason I like to go to EMO, is something it seems like sometimes we miss in the all around is you guys just bring them up in a way. Like I'll see your horses at Sun Circuit and then, you know, see them again July at EMO. And then at that point you've got, you know, kind of a new group maybe that you're getting ready for the fraternities later on in the year or whatever. But like, it's just where you're pushing them. You can almost see your training process of where you're trying to get them comfortable and trying to push them and maybe seeing how far you can push them. But I don't ever see, I'm trying to figure out the right words to say versus what we're doing in the all around. It's trying to push them to a point to see where they break and where they don't break. And then it's like, okay, pressure's off. And now this is what you came here for. And it feels like with our deal, it's like every time you go to a horse show, like they got to perform. Yeah. And there seems like there's got to be a balance in there for us in the all around a little bit more. And that's part of a big reason why I wanted to have you in here is to kind of pick your brain on that a little bit. Cause I love to watch you guys, you know, there's Nick and Brad, so many of those guys at EMO when I'm watching cause I'm there early. So I get to watch you guys a lot. Once I have to start my job, I'm like, you guys are done and we start our part. So it's really kind of fun to just watch not that we don't have horsemen in our part. We have a lot of great horsemen in our deal, but I love to watch y'all's process so much that really has nothing to do necessarily with the showing part, but it's about creating that foundation in them that you can go and you can take them, like you said, to all these places and see, I forget the words you just said, exposing them to so many different things. Yeah. And seeing how much your training still sets in when they're seeing all the bright lights, but it doesn't matter to them. It's crazy.
Yeah, sir. Well, I do believe especially the 3-year-old year, there's peaking at the right time. Of course, when I say peaking, I want to know that I've brought out the best in that horse that I can at that time at that show. And some horses going to that show, I feel like I'm behind or I haven't done my job enough. And that's where you got to stay true to yourself as far as trusting the process. We talked about that, you know, and that I have, you know, set up these situations and I haven't, maybe I'm making it too difficult. You know, we have to get into deep detail on some things, but sometimes backing off and just creating the picture, you know, will smooth things out. But the peak of having them as ready as I can have them at the snaffle bit mentally and physically is a big part of that, you know? And so like you brought up, you know, the Sun Circuit, I was there and like, I was just going with what they knew. And of course, trying to build on it, maybe getting into some things, you know, and putting pressure, not so much they need to be doing it the best at that time, but putting pressure to make them stand up and, hey, the first time I asked you to do this, it counts because we don't have numerous times that we can go back in there. And so, you know, like I'm going to pressure you up a little bit, then I might back off and, you know, I get back home with them. And it's amazing by just, you know, building them up and backing it off and feeling that when they come home, it's almost like okay, I'm starting to understand why there's so much practice at home to, you know, I got to go to these areas. And this is why it's so important for the consistency to be there, you know, because we do have so many things that we have to work on that, I mean, you're not going to have a horse left mentally or physically if you try to do it all in one day.
Well, and I think I think hitting the nail on the head was, you know, what we do doesn't. And Charlie Cole, when he was on the show, we talked about that a lot. Like we have to peak ours almost every time we go to show. Yeah. You know, and going back to the aged events, you know, like you say, you're getting them ready for the fraternity at the end of the year. And I just forget that piece because as my career has evolved, it's been more aged horses and fewer of the fraternity horses. But that's the part that I realized that I miss so much, right? As you go and you're like, okay, I'm going to throw, okay, yep, that's your peak for this horse show. I got to go see if you could do it. And now I'm going to back off a little bit and go back home and regroup, and you need to go to another one and you see if you can push them the same or a little harder or maybe a little longer, and then okay, that's my limit, and then I'm going to go back home and I'm going to do it again. So that's the part I was looking for.
Yes, sir. And then you got to take it back the other way too.
Yeah.
I'm just going to use the South Point. Some of our biggest events of the year: the Run for a Million, the Bridal Spectaculars, the NSHA fraternities and derbies. All those places that needs to be an enjoyable place for my horses to go. I mean, of course, it's super comfortable and everything's great there. And as much as I love it, but them horses know where the stalls are compared to where the arena is. And if they get to going in there fearing or only craving going back to the barn, talking about the older horses, I need to go there. And the goal there is to just lope through the pattern. Just lope along the side of the side of the cow, going down the fence, and let them breathe a little bit, because we do have to ask for so much out of them at certain times. And so a person's got to regulate that. As far as we all use the word schooling. Well, I guess you can call it schooling, but it's more like letting off the gas and let them going in there and just letting them breathe. But yeah, you may have to spend a little bit of money, and a guy may have to go off course by stopping and just pausing for a second, or spinning one too many times, or, whatever the case may be, but just to kind of follow through. So it's not, they don't get to coming through the gate like some horses can when they know they've just had the gas pedal mashed on the whole time.
Yep. I love it. That's what I just always long for is going back to that. That's the horseman piece. That's the piece of knowing where your horse head is. I do so many youth and amateur horses now, and not very many open horses. And so when you're on one, and what you feel versus what you see can sometimes be a little bit different.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And sometimes, it feels horrible, but it looks really good,
Yeah.
And you've almost got to, talking about training, and, you can only do so much. There are some days where, I'll look up and ask Kristen, does that look okay? And, yes or no. But, the majority of the time, like, it doesn't feel very good, but the overall picture is still good. And that's what I got to sell. And so I've got to give in there a little bit, because I can't just sit there and keep going and going and going, because more than likely I'll end up building a hornet's nest. And then I've got a problem that really didn't even need to be there.
Right. Tim, do you want to say something?
Well, I was just saying, can we pause for a second, go to a commercial, and then insert it, and then come right back, and then we'll just jump back in?
Let's do that, Marcel. If you could pull one of those, whatever you got ready to go up, and
he doesn't put one in now. I'm just saying, can we just cut and pretend there's a commercial in there?
Yeah. Everybody keep rolling. I don't know if we can do that or not, but we're going to roll with the commercial. Don't go anywhere, everybody. We'll be right back.
Maybe not.
I don't know. 3, 2, 1 is Marcelo.
So we'll just say we're coming
good there.
Can I come back?
Yeah.
So you can put a
commercial, Marcelo.
Oh, I can hear you. You're freezing up.
Me?
Brad. No, Brad.
I'm freezing up.
Yeah.
Well, I was saying,
Can you put a
commercial? Go ahead. Can we put a commercial in there for a second, and then cut us there, and then come back in?
Sure.
Okay.
So then just act like you're coming back from commercial.
We pretend the commercial went, and then you say we now coming back, and then let me ask him a question.
So at about 33 minutes there, we'll put a commercial in there.
And now we're back. Because I have my question ready.
Oh, now you got your question ready. All right, cheater.
Okay, now that we're back. So let me go back to trust the process, because I think there's two folds of this trust the process. One, in a trainer's trust the process, and two, an owner realizing what the trust the process means.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, trusting the process. So, whether it be myself or I'll speak for other trainers, when we've got a horse that we realize that is worth going on with, whether it be for the snaffle bit or you got it later and it be a bridle horse or whatever the case may be. However, there's more than likely there's going to be a goal in mind. Okay. I'm going to do my best. I'll speak for myself here. I'm going to do my best to explain where we're at that time. If it's a 2-year-old, things are going to be pretty quiet and calm, and a lot of, just training the horse here at home. As we get into the 3-year-old, we talked about going to shows. There'll be some pre-fraternities we'll go to. I'm going to explain all that. trust the process. Well, how are they coming along? Well, this is working, this isn't working, this needs more work, whatever the case may be, and whatever your plan is. But the people, you can, hopefully things are building. Well, every now and then, whether it be the horse isn't working right, or an injury, or there's this or there's that, there's a lot of lows, there's a lot of downs, and it's quick for myself, because at this point, any of these horses that are at my barn, I consider them half mine. Okay, it's my job to make sure that there's a vision and they're going somewhere, and I feel good about it. And so, I'm constantly thinking of different things, whether it be training related or where this horse needs to go to best prep him for what's to come. And so there's all those ups and downs. Switch that to, the customers trusting the process rather than just, okay, every now and then they're going to have their highs and lows, well, why didn't he change leads? Well, I'm not too sure. I tried to do my best. He was getting ahead of me. It didn't work out. Well, why didn't we draw a better cow? Well, I guess I should have worked it a little bit, or maybe I should have set up this situation different, and so, them understanding that is part of trusting the process, getting to know our game and what we do and the direction, that comes from it, I guess is the best way that I can put it.
So I'm going to bounce off that question. So what people skills do trainers need to communicate with their owners, their peers, their own staff, and to the public?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Is that too much?
a lot of, you threw a lot in there.
How about owners? Let's do owners first.
You've got to, for me, Tim, I try to keep it as simple as just be 100% honest with them. I've had customers call on the bad days. Hey, what's going on? Well, I'm letting your horse, catches there for a minute because there's some tough love that needed to be given, and he's absorbing it. And hopefully we can go back and, we can work through this. And then there's, oh my gosh, well, does that mean he's not going to make it? No, it just means that we had to get it over this little, hitch right here, and now we can move forward and move on. Having great communication with your team, that the people that work for you, them knowing what they're responsible for, their job, what you expect out of them, and then as far as the family, hopefully, I can be there to fill in, where, to go and support them at, sports, or, make sure that they feel welcome, that they can come over. And yesterday morning is a perfect example. My little girl, she doesn't get to ride very much, and just because she's got so much going on, but, she told me on Saturday that she wanted to start riding, and, we go out this, 6 days a week, and I guess who wouldn't want to sleep in, but she said that she wanted to come ride. I said, all right, we'll come tomorrow morning, and ride. And so making time for that. And so, it's a balance of everything, but, just at the end of it, you just have got to, stay true to yourself, stay, true to the customers and what your plan is, and keep them informed along the way of changes, for sure.
Yeah. I think it's a trick question. Bradford, you want to add on?
Well, no, I think, like you said, keeping it simple, you just got to be honest with them. Mm-hmm. And you have to build their trust in you. Yes. And then when you're honest with them and you build your trust in you, what you tell them, and if it does come down to a point where it's not going to make it, it's not like it's out of the blue, like you built this thing up, like, oh, it's been great, and then all of a sudden now it's not good, because you've just been honest with them every step of the way as you're going.
Yeah, there are some customers, and maybe I just need to be better about this, calling them more often to keep them in tune. But I'm blessed that a lot of them trust me. That there's times where it might go probably way too long, and we'll just leave it at that rather than putting a date on it. But go way too long without talking to them and communicating. But we've been together in this relationship, we'll call it, for a long time, and they know where our goals are set and what the plan is, and sometimes no news is good news. So
well, and I'll let you off the hook there, because probably those people that you don't call very much, it's because you've been in that training situation with that type of horse plenty of times and you've seen it come out of it. But then as soon as you get that day and you're like, okay, I've tried long enough and hard enough. Now I'm going to make that phone call, you know? And when you make that phone call, they'll know you've been trying. It's not like you called me and told me he's doing great. And then all of a sudden it's not, they just trust that you've been trying the whole time. So yeah, I get that.
So my question will be like, how many 2-year-olds do you start with on January 1st? And when is there a point that they might not go on to the next, like they have to do another job or they're hurt or they have to do something else?
It's time to start moving forward. Which ones are going to keep stepping up and moving forward? I like to get my 2-year yearlings at this time, December of their yearling year or beginning January, and get them started. And some of them, it probably wouldn't have hurt to say started them a little bit later, like into their 2-year-old year, February or March. But because of our shows and how much we're going to be gone, I'm home for the most part, and we can get a good start on them, because it just takes time. Benny Gatrone told me a long time ago, training horses is just like making wine, a fine wine, and it just takes time, and it truly does. And so, it sounds, to some, it may sound like we're starting them way too early, but it's not, rough, training, and it's just being on their back, teaching them to go and places and how to guide and how to follow. And just because we are going to be pulled, to so many different shows throughout the year. And I'm blessed that I've got an incredible team to keep them going, but you still want to be there. Your customer still wants you to be there. I mean, those horses are there because of you, and so being able to report back in and continue to move forward. So anyway.
Do you do anything special? The other day I had a person go into the arena and they got on and they kind of went to town and started working pretty hard, pretty fast. And I was telling them, well, you can't just come to that arena and just always put so much pressure on them. Like, do you ever ride your horses out a little bit outside your arena and not always be in that classroom situation?
Man, it's a catch-22. Would I like to do more of it? Absolutely. On ones that it'll be good for any of them. I'm blessed that there's deep. How should I put this? I'm blessed that I've got so many that I need to kind of stick to being in the arena and getting on one right after the other. But if there is a horse that requires special attention or time, or I've got a couple of them that they do good turned out. Okay. And there's so many people like, okay, turn them out. That's the best thing for them. Well, it is until it isn't, because, you go to turn them out and they take off running and bucket and they overreach and now they've sliced their bulb off or they've torn a suspensory or something like that. And so to be smart and be a horseman about it, like I said, I've got a couple of them that I'll ride. And when the weather is good, after I get done riding them, after they're warmed up, their legs are stretched out, I'll ride them up to the pasture, unsaddle them there, get off and turn them loose, and almost like let them cool off and spend the rest of the day, walking around and doing their deal rather than turning them loose, just, coming straight out of their stall when more than likely something's going to break. And so anyway, just trying to be a horseman about it.
How about like chiropractor, vet work, shoeing, those three things? Like how's that for those younger horses? All I know, I just know it by experience. That's a lot of pressure on these young horses, right? Their feet, their body, everything. So I'm sure,
but you do it right, do it right and go about it in the right moment. A vet that, is a horseman himself and understands, what you're working with, having a great relationship with your vet. It's a 2-year-old that just came in. Hey, me being good on communication, hey, don't let this one touch you when you go to vaccinate him, stuff like that. Having a good relationship with that way. A lot of my horses, they all either get trimmed or they've got hind sliders on or, little keg shoes or something like that. But it's just part of the process. Yeah, it is putting a lot of pressure on them. But I think if it's handled in the right way and they're mentally ready to accept all of that, you can continue to move forward and move on. And I think if you just keep it that simple to where you just show them the steps and try to present, good situations to them. It tell you a lot about the horse, whether they're going to make it or they're not.
Do you think, is there a certain number that's probably good for you guys to show throughout the fraternity? Like, for instance, I'm thinking if I had like one fraternity horse or two, I might wear them out because I'm so nervous that I'm going to ride more than I probably should. If I have 5 or 6, I'm going to pace myself because I got to go through 5 or 6 of them and not just put so much pressure on 1 or 2 horses.
No, sir, I don't ever look at it like that because whether I've got 1 or I've got 7, and we're just talking about the fraternity or whatever horse show, but you need to have a plan for that horse, and you need to take as much time on that horse as you need to. Some horses, in my opinion, are your 15, 20-minute horses. They retain more. You got more life to them the next time you get on them. Or, when you get in there, get them warmed up, you work on something and you're done. There's other horses that require, a slow warm up, put some pressure on them, build them up, and then you might need to go walk around and just chill for a minute and talk to your buddy or hang out, make a phone call or whatever. Understanding what those different types of horses are, the ones that you need because there are so many times where, there is so much energy and electricity and, things have got to be quick and they got to be sharp, but at the same time, they've got to have a cool mind to them and they've got to be relaxed and chill about it. And so, you can't just go into them just on the ones that, are overreactive or fractious. You've got to spend that extra time and, maybe just a press instead of a kick. And so, building that up to, build it up, slow it back down, build it up, slow it back down, is one horse. And then you got the other one that you kind of need to rev up. Things need to get to flowing and then you need to be done. And that's where you need to quit. So that horse looks at it the next time like, okay, let's get going, one that's laid back and lazy, and then just be done with it.
Do you find like,
go
ahead.
Well, I was going to put in my cellist comment. So I read an article about this cello, the guy that plays cello in front of, I don't know, I think he's in New York and plays in front. Anyway, there was an article that somebody was asking him, how do you prepare to play your cello in front of all these people and not make a mistake? He goes, you have to learn to do that, just like teaching a horse to do that. And so he really explained how he trained his brain to do that. And basically, I'll make the long story short because I think I've explained it on our show before. But he said, I trained my brain to relax at the point of execution. And how he did that was by going and practicing. But when he practiced, he didn't tell himself he needed to learn something. He told himself that he needed to do it just because he wanted to know he could do it. And so I kind of translated that into my training process and how I tell my kids because I teach mine how to feel and not just say, I'm going to get your horse ready and then go put you on and go show. I teach them how to feel to be able to communicate to that horse. And when I'm having them do it, it doesn't mean that the horse is doing anything wrong. Actually, I'll have them when the horse is really good, be able to go to their foot, go to their hand and do it. And I was like, I want you to do it until that horse feels like it's relaxed every time you ask for it. So then when you go in there and you run fast or you stop and you spin it, that horse is it's breathing through the whole thing. And so just every time I have somebody on and they're talking about their process, the true horsemen bring it up to where that horse gets relaxed when they're running down the fence. 9-0, that horse it's like, I liked how you said it, which I'd never heard, how that their brain is cool. You know, it's not hot. It's not like at the end of that, you're having to choke it up trying to walk it out of the arena, but it's like hot or it's cool walking out of the pen. So I always thought that article with the cellist completely different thing from what we're doing, but it's really accomplishing the same thing as trying to be relaxed at the point of execution. And I've told my world champion kids walking in at that point, just be relaxed at the point of execution when you do it. You've done it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Just let it roll.
That. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
no,
and
that's no, and in relation to that, we do have to do so many different events, right? And something that I've been having to work with a lot of my non-pros, just so hopefully we can get better results, is there's times where you need to practice going fast but being cool. When you get going down the fence, or even for myself, I can work whether it be a 3-year-old or an older horse, and I can get done going down the fence and I can look down at them, and it'll tell you how much they absorbed or they didn't, or how they felt while they were working by how hard they're breathing at the end of it, depending on what you just got done doing. And it might have been something for only a couple minutes. I got some horses that are breathing super heavy. Well, you can obviously tell that they're nervous about it, or they're trying way too hard to do it when something good, so that their speeds match, it does take a lot out of them, but getting a hold of the mental part of it to where we're going fast, but they're staying cool and calm is what we're truly, after. And that's why I say they got to be able to, take a joke real good,
Yeah. That's what you said earlier that I was trying to get back to. They got to take a joke. That was good. I like that.
I think, the term I use when I do my stuff, whatever, I shouldn't apply it to trail, but, we talk about practicing with a purpose. So like when you're young, your horse, you should already have in mind what you're going to try to achieve today and then be done when you get it. But I have friends that go dig deeper after they finish what they want to do, and they dig a hole. And it's amazing.
I don't think people understand better. Okay. Like a lot of people want to see the best or the end result, or, what it's going to turn into, 2 minutes into working with something. And it's something that I'm always having to tell myself, tell my help and my non-pros, you've got to accept better in order to move forward. There's days here or anywhere, whether it be we're training in Arizona in the middle of summer or here in Texas, that they can only go for so long. There's days that are hot and they've only got so much to them. You burn them out every day. Pretty soon, as much as they need to have draw and crave doing their job in order for us to be successful on them, you can only pick a couple of things to do that day. And so, but you want that, and, something more than likely, we talked about days of 3, something more than likely is going to come up, or there's going to be a little hitch, or something's going to come along. And so, okay, well, there's that. But what I was really after was getting this more comfortable. I either had to get into it a little bit or check and make sure, depending on my horse, can I do more, or, do I need to just be done for the day? Did he get better? If he's better and he's got a good frame of mind, I'm going to be done, and it just, it changes, from moments to days, what the events that we're doing.
Well, I think everyone thinks about time. Like you have to spend an hour on each horse, 45 minutes on this horse, and it's not done until you clock out, but you can be done in 20 minutes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hey, it's not, Jim Paul told me this a long time ago. It's not how long you ride them, it's how often. Right. There are some horses that you go out there and, I'll go out there and be playing around with something and they might get a little bit hot. I'll either go tie them up or I'll put them on the walker, for a while and, let them cool down and start over, just reset, and just, it doesn't always work the first time. These horses, we ask a lot of them, and there's a lot of different things on their mind, plus with how mature they are and what they can accept, and so you got to pay attention to be that horseman and to, get the best out of your horse each day.
For sure.
Awesome.
Bradford?
Awesome. Well, I think we're coming to a close on this episode, and if you guys are watching, make sure you tune into episode 2. There's a philosophy I see in my notes here that says it's 98 and 2%.
I'm all about that.
I want to hear about all that, dude. And so Corey's got a little bit of extra time to hang out with us. So everybody that's watching, make sure you tune in to next episode and hear a little bit more from Corey. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see you next time.